Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. I'm Priscilla. I'm the owner of A Life Full of Simplicity. Today I'll be doing my monthly reflections for March. So I'll be going through the decks that I used, books that I read, and a few YouTube videos that I enjoyed. So the first decks that I'm going to talk about are the Self-Care Wisdom Cards by Sherilyn Richardson and Joe Podmore. This is a Hay House publication. And the Good Karma Tarot, which is by Kelly Ward. This is an Welbeck Publishing production. And it's illustrated by Amy Blackwell. So I used these as my main decks for April, and I really enjoyed them. So for the Self-Care Wisdom cards, the main practice that I did for this particular deck was to pull a card for my word of the week and to really focus on that particular card throughout the week. And that's really what I did. I also used it in conjunction with the Good Karma Tarot for readings as well. And it was definitely something that I enjoyed doing. So I started off with these particular decks doing a reading for March, to get an idea of how my month will be. And I pretty much did my own spread. It was 6 cards, or 6 questions rather, that I decided to pull. And I did a theme of the month where I pulled strictly from the Self-Care Wisdoms cards. And then I did what to focus on for the month, and I did my usual 3-card spread with the Oracle in the middle and then 2 tarot cards on either side of the Oracle. And then I did you at the beginning of the month, you in the middle of the month, and you at the end of the month. So I pulled 1 tarot card for each, so it was like a 3-card spread of, beginning, middle, and end type of thing. And then I pulled 1 last card at the end of the spread, which was a ray of hope to hold on to, and I pulled an oracle card from this particular deck. So yes, that's pretty much how I use this in the beginning of the month. And then I did a Mercury in Pisces spread where I just did 3 questions, and I pulled 1 card for a focus from the Self-Care Wisdom. And then I did how can I be more open with my imagination? Pulled 1 tarot. And then how can I be more in tune with my emotions? And I pulled another tarot. So just basic 3-card spread in that regard. I did also do an Aries season spread where I pulled 3 cards from this particular tarot. Just like 1 to represent the Aries season, and then how can I thrive this season, and then how can I stay mindful this season. This spread was actually by Emerald Lotus Divination, but I only did 3 out of the 5 or 6 questions that were in the spread. And then towards the end of the month, I think the last 2 weeks I was not feeling well, so I didn't do any more tarot. I actually decided to just take a break and whatnot. So I never ended up doing a spring spread, which I have plenty of time, I think, still to do that. And I didn't work anymore with these particular decks. I didn't even pull my weekly card at the last week of March or anything. So yes, definitely love these decks. They pair really nicely together in my opinion. I wasn't sure how this would read since I didn't use it last year that much, and I definitely enjoy how it read. I think that it was pretty soft, gentle, nothing too crazy. The imagery is very lovely to work with. So I wouldn't say that it's like harsh or anything like that. Very gentle in my opinion. So I did enjoy the readings that I got from it. Though I will have to say that a lot of the time I do enjoy readings or cards that really call me out. And sometimes that was a bit lacking, I think. It was like beating around the bush a bit in my opinion. So yes. So this was the Good Karma Tarot and the Self-Care Wisdom cards. So the next two decks that I used in March were the Moonology Manifestation Oracle cards by Yasmin Boland and Lori Mena. This is another Hay House publication. Then I also used the Cosmic Slumber Tarot by Tilly Walden, and this is a Liminal 11 publication. I am using these two decks particularly for my moon readings, and I have definitely enjoyed it. So typically what I do with the Moonology deck is that I will pull the specific moon card that I want, whether it's, you know, a first quarter, a new moon, a last quarter, or a full moon, and then, or a full moon and then last quarter. And then I'll pull like the specific astrological sign that it's in for that specific moon. And then I'll do a reading with the Cosmic Slumber Tarot. So I did do a new moon in Pisces spread by Lionheart, and I pulled the new moon in Pisces card from this particular deck. It was about attuning to the divine. And what I do usually is I write this down as a focus, and I'll write down what it says on the card. I'll write down my interpretation, and then inside the guidebook there's an affirmation to attune to, and I'll usually write this down in like my tarot book and things like that, where I write down my readings. So for this particular reading, the affirmation was, my conscious dreams create my reality. And sometimes I'll do like different sigils to go with that. In this particular case, I created 2 sigils. Attuned to the divine, and then my conscious dreams create. And these were the sigils that I created, which I absolutely love. I love sigils that are more like in lines and things like that, and then decorated with like dots and circles and lines and stuff like that. So that's really how I do my sigils. And then I did the 3-card reading that Lionhearts puts out. So the first question was, what has my major lesson throughout the fall zodiac cycle of the last 12 months? So I pull a card for that. And then, what am I guided to release or give closure to during this Pisces new moon cycle? And the last one was, what new chapter am I asked to ready myself for between now and the Aries new moon? And then I pulled a shadow card at the end. So I pulled, I just looked at the bottom and saw what the last card was, and I used that as my shadow card. And I really do love working with these 2 decks together. I think they're absolutely beautiful. And I've been really enjoying the readings I've been getting from this particular deck. It has easily become one of my top favorites, to be very honest. So I'm going to actually keep working with these two decks together for my moon readings in April. But yes, I also did a full moon spread also with these particular decks. So again, I did, it was a full moon in Virgo. It was another Lionheart spread. And I pulled the full moon in Virgo card, which just talks about inspired action. And the Moonology affirmation for this one was, I forgive myself for everything. I am doing my best. And then we had, how should I use this Virgo full moon to prepare for the March equinox? Then I had, how can I best align myself with my current short or long-term goals? For this particular question, I pulled actually 2 cards, and I decided to do 1 card for short-term and 1 card for long-term. And then the last question was, what will the next 12 months of my astrological new year be about? And from the card that I got the Lovers, and from that card I decided to pull an extra card asking the question, what decisions will need to be made? And I pulled a card for that. And then I didn't do any other moon readings. I was going to do a last quarter one, but then I wasn't feeling too good. So again, I decided not to do any more readings the last, like, I don't know, 2 weeks or last week and a half of March. So yes, I absolutely love this deck. Love the readings I get from them. Highly recommend them. I actually like this Moonology deck way more than the first one. And I do have the original one. They are unboxed on my channel. So is the Cosmic Slumber. So the next deck that I want to talk about is the Seed and Sickle Oracle by Fez Inkray. This is another Liminal 11 publication. I use this in March for my daily polls. So really what I did with this is I decided that I wanted to use both guidebooks. So I would pull a card in the morning. Well, I would try to anyway, and then look in the dawn guidebook. And then in the evening, reflect on the dusk guidebook. So that's what I did. Again, I only did this for the first 2 weeks. And then the last 2 weeks, I didn't really do much because I wasn't feeling well. So, but I do love this deck very much. I used it in February, so I did work with it quite a bit. I will actually be giving this deck a break and picking it up again maybe in the summertime, but next month I won't be working with it. I'll be working with some other decks that I have yet to work with. So, but I have enjoyed my time so far with this deck. It's definitely a beautiful deck. I love the readings from it. And, well, I love the daily pulls from it. I haven't actually done any actual readings with it yet, which is a plan of mine, maybe in May to do that. But yeah, I love this deck so much. So beautiful. Imagery is gorgeous. The messages that I have gotten for it, from it for daily polls, absolutely amazing. I enjoyed it very much. The next deck that I'm going to talk about is the Mystical Medleys or Tarot. This is by Gary Hall, and again, another Liminal 11 publication. I decided to use this in the Mystic the Shapeshifter challenge that they were doing. And I didn't finish the challenge yet. I'm still going through it. I'm going through it slowly and doing a few spreads at a time, but really it's going through all the major arcana. So I wanted to do that particular challenge with this deck so I can get to know this deck a bit more. So far I've been loving it. I still have quite a number of spreads to do. So I will be continuing that particular challenge in April. And I love this card so much. And this one, oh my god, I love it. But yes, it has been great. It's definitely, in my opinion, a sassy, funny deck, and I've been loving the messages that I have been getting from those particular spreads. And I'm excited to finish that challenge, hopefully in April. So yes, because again, I didn't do any tarot the last 2 weeks of March. So yeah, it's such a great deck, very RWS. So I find it very easy to read right off the bat, honestly, with it. I have no issues reading it at all. It's been absolutely fantastic. The next two decks that I want to talk about are the Mystic Mondays Tarot by Grace Duong. This is a Chronicle Books publication. And then we have the Cosmic Creatures deck, also by Grace Duong. It's a Mystic Mondays Oracle, and this is published by RP Studio. I decided to do the challenge, the Lionheart challenge, the animal one. I didn't finish it yet. I will be continuing it in April, but I used these particular decks together since they are sister decks, obviously. So I use this for the actual animal portion of the readings, spreads and whatnot, and then for the actual readings, I use the tarot. I absolutely love this. I love this deck so much. It's such a beautiful animal deck, and these decks work so well together. Mainly because, you know, they're the same type of imagery and style, art style. So they look really good together. Obviously, the only thing is that the tarot is glossy and the oracle is matte. But honestly, not a big thing. You can't really even tell sometimes. So, yeah, doesn't even matter. I've enjoyed taking part in that challenge. Has been definitely a fun one that I've been loving. And I love the animal component to it. Just like finding your animal guide and everything. Mine is a sloth, which is fantastic, I have to say. Definitely love it. It's definitely helped me to slow down a bit, especially since getting a bit ill and whatnot. So yes, I love the fact that it has helped me as well. Love the snail card, so cute. Frog. I love it. It's so beautiful, honestly. Such a great, great deck. So yes, I will be continuing and finishing the animal challenge in April. I'm hoping to anyway. So I will continue to use these particular decks for that challenge that I'll be doing. Then the next deck I'll be talking about is, or the last deck rather that I'll be talking about is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. This is by Phyllis Curott, Danielle Barlow. This is another Hay House publication. So this was my study deck for the month of March. I'll actually be continuing my study with it in the month of April as well. And I've enjoyed studying it so far. Mainly I haven't really done anything with the deck yet. I've been mainly reading the guidebook and going through the guidebook and just doing the like boho tarot method, because I do have her book and I've just been so slowly going through that and then reading the guidebook to understand like the structure and stuff like that. Now I did put up my unboxing of this, and someone left me a comment about my comments on the name changes for the major, like answering back saying that like I understand that the names have changed, but like when I do an unboxing, it's literally a first impression, so it's just me going through the deck for the first time. So obviously I haven't really read the guidebook yet. And I haven't really had a chance to really go through what the authors is saying about the cards and the name changes and the structure. When I did my unboxing, all I really knew was the fact that it went in a different order and that I went backwards, the system. So of course, me and my brain, the way I work is when I go through an unboxing, I'm trying to make associations with the RWS since I'm not familiar with this deck yet, right? But when I started my study, obviously reading the guidebook, it helped me to understand better the structure of the major arcana in terms of like why the names are changed and things like that. So I understand better like the structure, and obviously they're not the same, and they're not the same as their like traditional counterpart, which is fine. But I just wanted to make note of that in case you watch my unboxing and you're like, but why are you saying the ancestors is the devil? Which is what I said, but because that's what it, in position of the association of like where it is in the in like the structure, ancestors would then become like the devil association with like in terms of the cards being switched or whatever. And that's what I had said in my thing. Don't take offense. It's really just me processing like the unboxing. It has nothing to do with anything. I plan to do another video on this particular deck once I finish my study and how that went and everything like that. But that's not yet, because I'm clearly not done my study. There's still a lot for me to learn. I really do love this deck though. Very earthy. And I love that very much. Like, for example, this one, I believe, would be associated with the Magician. In like if you're thinking about it in terms of like the structure of how it goes, from like the World to the Fool, this would be, I think was it this one? No, this would be the Emperor. The Emperor, and then this is the Empress. That's what I was doing in my video, and I don't know, I think someone took offense or something in it. So please don't take offense. It's just me processing the structure change. That's it. That's all. But yes, I really love the changes. I love that it's unique. Very amazing. I love the differences. Very earthy. The only thing I don't like is the Sun card. I don't like the Sun card in this particular deck. I love this Ancestor card. It's so beautiful. Healing. So yeah, Goddess. And yeah, I just really enjoy everything about this deck, and I'm excited to keep studying it because there's like so much more for me to discover in terms of like, the last card is the Fool card. How funny is that? There's so much more for me to go through in terms of like the structure and like the imagery and things like that. So I still have a lot to learn when it comes to this particular deck. Now I'm going to talk about some new decks that I got and added to my collection in the month of March. So the first one is going to be the Joie de Vivre Tarot. This is by Paulina Cassidy. It's a US Games deck. I'm excited to start working with this. It's been on my wish list for a long while, and I decided to pick it up from Amazon. Then we have the Kawai Tarot. This is a new release. This is by Lulu Mayo. It is published by Rock Point Publishing. And I pre-ordered this, and it was delayed, so I actually ended up getting it. I got it before the end of March. It was actually supposed to only come like in April or May, because it was delayed. It was supposed to release March 15, but yeah, I ended up getting it towards the end of March, so I was really happy. I'm excited to work with this. It's a very, very cute looking. Then we have this beauty, which is the Woodland Wardens. This is by Jessica Rue. It is published by Andrews McMeel Publishing. Now, this actually just released April 5th. I actually got this towards the end of March. So I didn't pre-order this. This was actually in stock at my bookstore. They had it in stock. I was making an order online for some books that were on sale. I saw this and I was like, oh, it's available. Okay. And I picked it up. So I'm excited to go through this. I have her book, so I love the art style of this. Then, because of Lisa Papez, who was previously known as the Supportive Tarot on YouTube, she showed these in a video and I just had to get them. So I picked up the illustrated Bestiary, the Herbiary, and the Crystallary oracle cards. And I'm really excited to work with these. It's going to be really fun. They could be made into one deck, which is super exciting. So yes, I'm really excited to work with these. So those were the new decks that I picked up in March. So now I'm going to talk about YouTube. There's 3 particular videos that I want to mention and bring up that I really either enjoyed watching or I participated in. One of them I actually participated in. So the first one I'm going to discuss is the Peggy's Spring Fling YouTube event. So this was on Lisa Papez's channel. I will link the video down below, obviously. If you don't know who Lisa Papez, she is another tarot tuber here on the YouTube realm. Fantastic channel. Definitely go subscribe if you're not. I don't know why you wouldn't be, but yes, definitely go subscribe. And Peggy is her wife, and they run an event every quarter together where they invite other YouTubers or tarot readers or people from their Facebook group to join them on a live stream that they typically do, which I believe is like 6 hours long. Super fun. Honestly, it's like a really fun event. I absolutely love it. I signed up for the fall one. That one ended up getting canceled. I took part in the December one as well. And then I decided to, again, take part in the spring one. So I had a great time. So much fun. Definitely check it out if you'd like. And a lot of other YouTubers and tarot individuals were on this one that I didn't get to meet last time. So it was super fun, had a grand old time, and I absolutely loved it. Definitely will be taking part in these in the future, so you may see me in a future live streams like this, just to let you know. The next YouTube video that I want to talk about is the one by Danny Mystic. This was My Classics, so Classic Danny Decks. It's a tag that she created called My Classics, and she talks about like decks that are classic to her, or you know, that are her specific decks that she would be going to more often, or that would describe her. I really want to do this tag. Love this video. And I think I may actually do this tag as well. So you may see that in the near future from me. Definitely check out the video. It'll be linked in the description box below. And then the last YouTube video that I want to talk about is the 3 Fat Readers discuss fandom decks. So if you don't know, 3 Fat Readers is a YouTube channel that is literally made by Danny Mystic, Dustin from Modern Metaphysique, and Lisa from Lisa Papez. So they do this channel. It's like a collaborative channel between them 3. And I absolutely love it. I don't always get the chance of like joining live, and I missed this also when they did this live, but I did watch it in March. I think it was at the end of February maybe that they did this. I don't remember when they did this particular video, but I know I watched it in March. So they talked about like different fandom decks, so decks that are like created, that are based on, you know, popular books or TV shows and things like movies and things like that. So I absolutely love this. And I love that the fact that they talked about inside editions and cash grabs and things like that. I do find that a lot of decks from inside editions are cash grabs, though I do own some of those decks, and I do love them just the same, like my Nightmare Before Christmas and my Disney Villains. I love them very much. I have the Supernatural, haven't used it that much, to be honest with you. Do love Supernatural though, so I'm happy to have it in my collection, but I probably won't use it as much. It'll probably be one of those decks that's just for collecting, in my opinion. And not everyone is interested in those kind of decks. And I definitely do agree that their decks definitely seem like very cash grabby because they don't put enough work into them. And I don't know if that's because their the Disney license and everything is very limiting or what it is really, but they should really put more work into the decks that they put out. So I have my eye on several Inside Edition decks, so hopefully the ones that come out are better produced and just better in general, but we shall see. I don't know. And then they talked about other fandom decks, and then like what kind of fandoms would you like to see in a deck? And honestly, for me personally, I would love to see a Beauty and the Beast deck. Beauty and the Beast is like literally my life. I absolutely love Bella's, like my favorite princess. My best friend gave me the when it came back out of the vault, because Beauty and the Beast is currently in the vault. You can't get it. But when it came back out for one of its anniversaries, my best friend got me the anniversary DVD. So I have that in my collection. Absolutely love Beauty and the Beast. I have this beautifully illustrated pop-up Beauty and the Beast book on my shelf. Absolutely love Beauty and the Beast. So I would love a Beauty and the Beast deck, honestly. Harry Potter is another one. I know there's a few out. I definitely really want the Little Wizards Tarot. That one's really cute and very Harry Potter-ish. I definitely want that one. There's like a few others, maybe a few other TV shows that I wouldn't mind seeing. Maybe like the OG Charmed. That would be fun. Not the new Charmed. I like the OG Charmed. OG Charmed. I don't know. I've seen a few other fandom decks that I'm interested in, like Stranger Things. I'm waiting for that one. And a few others that I've discussed like in my upcoming releases, videos, and things like that. So definitely check out this video if you're interested. It will be linked in the description box below. Now we're going to talk about the books that I read in March. So these are the two books that I finished. I started this one in March, but I didn't start this one in March. I started this one last year and never finished it until now. So I started and finished the Milk and Honey poetry book by Rupi Kaur. Absolutely love this book very much. I even marked some of my favorite poems, and it was very raw, and I love her work. I am going to be reading her next book, which was something Sunflowers or something. I don't have Homebody, but I have her second book, so I'll pick up that next, since I read this one already. Then we have The Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. So this was definitely an interesting book. I didn't tab it all that much. This is the only tabs that I have. I barely tabbed it towards the end, to be honest with you. I enjoyed this, but not as much as Normal People. So Normal People would be my favorite still. From Sally Rooney. I have yet to read Conversation with Friends. I do have that book. My mom got it for me for my birthday, so I will be reading that at some point. But for now, Normal People is still my top fave. A few things I didn't like about the book. I hated Felix. He's one of the characters in this book. Hated him. So annoying. Honestly, I wanted to punch that guy's face. Don't like Felix in this book. And I didn't like too much of the political jargon and stuff like that. This is set in Dublin. I'm not familiar with politics in the UK or in Ireland, so I wasn't too interested in those kind of things. So yes, I gave this 4 stars, and I gave this 5 stars. Now to talk about some of the new books that I brought into my collection. So Chapters Indigo, which is our bookstore here in Canada, our chain bookstore here in Canada, I was having a up to 50% off sale, or was it 75%? I don't remember, but I got 2 books for a really good price. So I picked up this one by Nora Roberts, Secrets by Nightfall. It's actually 2 novels in one. So it's The Night Shift and The Night Shadow. It's originally, it's $12.99 in Canada. I think I picked it up for $10, which is really good in my opinion. So I saved like $3. This book here I did not get from Chapters. I actually found this at Dollarama, which is our dollar store here where I live. And it's called On Turpentine Lane. It's by Eleanor Lipman. It was $4. And I'm pretty sure if I take off the sticker, it's like $20 or something like that Canadian. So I was like, sure, why not? It seemed interesting in my personal opinion. Talks about some character who moves into his new place and then she finds some really mysterious things in her attic. So that really got me. This particular sentence got me and I was like, this is interesting. Okay, I will pick it up. Another book that I got from Dollarama, The Wangs versus the World. This is by Jade Chang. Seemed like a funny kind of book, good time kind of book. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick this up. It's about this particular man who loses everything in the financial crisis, and then he literally needs to pick up everything and move. And it just seems really interesting. I really enjoyed it reading the back. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to, for $4, I'm just going to add it to my book collection. Then the last book that I picked up was this one. It was What Should Be Wild by Julia Fine. This is a hardcover book. This is originally, I believe, $30-something in Canada. I got it for $10. So yeah, it was really good. Hardcover. I don't usually like hardcover, but I enjoyed the premise of this, where it's talking about how their family is cursed and her father is like an anthropologist and he tells her that she needs to stay away from the woods, but then he goes missing and then she has to like venture into the woods. So it seemed very interesting. Love the cover. It's nice, soft touch type of cover, but it also has like that kind of gold foiling on it. So that's really cool. And for $10, why not, you know? So I'm really excited to read these books at some point. I think they will be fantastic. So that was my March reflections. Do let me know in the comments what you thought of the things that I mentioned in this video. What did you read? What decks did you use? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. So I do thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on that bell so you can be notified every time I post a brand new video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it's greatly appreciated. Thanks so much and have a great day.